So welcome, and today I really wanted to talk about why I haven't really been using Leca and why I haven't really been talking about it. Alright, so one of the very beginning videos on my channel, other than my makeup videos, like let's not talk about that, I was really into Leca. I loved the idea of Leca. It just consumed me in the way that plants consumed me at the very beginning. I just thought this was like a super cool, unique way of growing plants. It sounded like it was gonna be super easy and beginner friendly. And when I say beginner friendly, I mean as in it kind of takes the does my plant need to be watered factor completely out. Because sometimes you'll be looking at a plant and you're looking at the soil and you're like, I think it needs to be watered, and then you end up overwatering it and ending up with root rot. So for me, I was like, this is the perfect thing for me to jump into because I have no idea sometimes, because I'm still learning, I'm still a beginner, of when something needs to be watered and when it doesn't need to be watered. So for me, Leca just seemed like a no-brainer. And then I was just in love with Caitlin from Plant Life in the Tropics. I was in love with her content because her and I were both going through the exact same Leca roller coaster together, and it was just really cool. I got obsessed with it because I was watching a YouTuber named BB Plants. I don't think that she's going to be really putting out any content because she is in nursing and she's just really busy, but I really got obsessed with her content on hydroponics, or semi hydroponics is what it's really called. But I just thought that this was just my route and what I needed to do. And one of my first Leca videos, I immediately transferred over like 12 plants. And what everybody always says is to start slow with your Leca journey, start slow, learn if you like it. But the bad part is about starting slow is that there are quite a few things that you have to purchase in order to begin your Leca journey, and that Leca is one of them. And then you gotta get, usually you have to get different types of pots if you don't already have them, and then you have to get some sort of fertilizer that works with the semi-hydroponic systems. Some people go for a pH balancer as well. I know in the very beginning I thought that that was really important, and I got that, but I don't use it anymore. I just go with the flow, honestly. But yeah, it just was so cool to me. I felt like this was just going to be the one thing that was just gonna set me apart from different, plant tubers, was going to be using Leca and loving it and seeing my plants thrive. And in the beginning, my plants were doing so good. I was seeing a lot of new growth, seeing a lot of, plants just doing better than they ever have. But then as time went on, I also started seeing plants really start to downgrade. And sometimes whenever I didn't completely get all of the sphagnum moss off of a plant, I would then see a lot of root rot, which is no good, because then you gotta completely unpot your plant, you gotta re-sterilize your Leca, you gotta put it in a bowl of water and boil it on your stove. It's just a whole process. It was really smooth sailing in the beginning, but then I just felt like I was accruing a lot of problems. A lot of people were saying they were recommending to only fill your water reservoirs up to a third full. And for me, it wasn't working like that. I felt like my plants were just drying up, the roots of my plants were drying up way too fast, and it just wasn't working for me. So then I started to fill my plants up with a lot more water. And for a really long time, that worked amazingly for my plants. They were showing even more growth, even more root growth and foliage growth, until they weren't. Then I started to experience a lot more root rot than I ever was, and I just started to completely abandon the Leca journey that I was on. Even though I really loved it, it felt like it was easier. I felt like I was making a lot of choices here and there along the way that weren't benefiting my plants. I wasn't washing them out. They were never getting rinsed out. I was literally just pouring more and more water in there constantly, and I have really, really hard water down here in Florida. And I'm not using distilled water, I'm just using whatever comes out of my tap. And yeah, so I think that that was one of the downfalls of my Leca journey. So then I began converting a lot of my plants back into soil, and most of my plants that are still in Leca are Hoyas. My Hoyas have done fantastically in Leca, except for my Hoya bellas, but those are just, I don't even want to talk about them because all they want to do is get infested with spider mites. I just keep on and keep on and keep on treating them for spider mites. They just don't want to go away. I don't know what I'm going to do at this point because I'm tempted to throw them away, but I love them because they're like my cherished plant. They're like one of my favorite plants. They got really, really dark all of a sudden. Thank you, Mother Nature. But anyway, the plants that really thrived were my Hoyas, and I still have a little Hoya section in a different bedroom where I still have most of them in Hoyas, where I have most of them still in Leca to this day, and they're doing great. But I'm also not taking I'm not giving them the care that they need as well. I'm still not washing out the reservoirs. I'm not flushing them weekly or monthly at all. I don't know how they're surviving, but they are. And then I took all of my philodendrons out because my philodendrons were what was suffering the most because they have the most root growth. I don't know if that has anything to do with it because they were just rotting tremendously. And actually, my philodendron mame was one of my guys that I had in Leca for a while. It was in a square glass container and I really loved it. She was doing great until she wasn't. A lot of her leaves were coming out and not unfurling, and they were coming out and half of it was unfurling and half of it wasn't, and so the other half of the leaf would rot off and eventually the whole entire leaf would rot off. But I have converted her back into soil, and this is her newest leaf, which looks absolutely amazing. She's battled some spider mites here and there, but for the most part, this plant has done so tremendously much better since I have converted her back into soil. But you just have to learn that sometimes some plants do better in different materials, different mediums, that's what I wanted to say. Yeah, so I for the longest time completely stopped with Leca. All I was doing is soil or sphagnum moss. I really enjoy sphagnum moss, but sometimes sphagnum moss can be a little tedious because it gets drier a lot quicker, a lot faster than soil does. At least it seems to be that way for me. Even if it's not like on a moss pole, you know, even if it is in a pot and it's filled with sphagnum moss, it still gets a little bit drier faster than soil does. But I recently have been binging Caitlin again, and I just got re-inspired by her and just her outlook on life and the way that she takes care of her plants. And I was like, I have this giant like 5 liter bag of Leca out in my garage, and I had a few plants that weren't doing so well that were in my IKEA cabinet. I think I converted 2 or 3 of them back into Leca to see how they were doing because they just were not doing well, and I'm glad I've done that because now I get to relearn how I like to take care of my plants in Leca, and they're actually doing a lot better. My Anthurium Doriaki is doing so much better. It's putting out a leaf, whereas before it was just doing nothing. It was just stagnant and it was starting to get yellow on the leaf. I can't get that plant to have more than a few leaves at a time because something always happens, whether a light falls on it and breaks a leaf or 2 off, or thrips happen, something happens with that plant every single time. But yeah, that is the main reason why you haven't really heard me talk about Leca too much on my channel recently. And that's just because I've had sort of a downfall with the medium itself and the way that I took care of my plants in them. Now I'm doing the third of the glass. Now I'm back to the leaving a third of the pot full of water reservoir. What words am I saying? Now I'm leaving a reservoir of a third of what the pot is. So I think I'm going to be doing better with that. Hopefully going forward I will be, and I will definitely be keeping you guys updated on how I'm liking Leca again. Hopefully I'm gonna get some good experiences with it, because I just remember really being so super excited about it, and I'm kind of like on that bus again. So let me know in the comments down below if you guys like Leca or if you hate it. If you're just a 100% soil, like true and true, that's cool too. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts and your feelings are. But I think that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.